Four Spheres of Knowledge Creation. The Causal Principles by René Bøtker. Chapter 6. Spatial and Temporal Differentiation. In the phenomenal world of human apperception, the dimensions of space and time exist as the structures through which objects interact. These dimensions emerge through the actualization process, where an object has been subjected to either spatial or temporal differentiation. Spatial differentiation. The spatial dimension refers to the existence of a single instantaneous representation of noumenal property expressed by an object, which is perceived by another object. Spatial differentiation consists of an object differentiated from another object. It is through the boundaries that an object shares with another object that a spatial object is differentiated from that other object. Delineation in space differentiates objects from other objects by presenting the shared boundaries between phenomenal representations of the noumenal property of different objects. Definition in space differentiates objects from other objects by presenting the phenomenal representation of noumenal property, which becomes apparent in the interaction between objects. Temporal differentiation. The temporal dimension refers to multiple representations of a single object. Temporal differentiation consists of an object differentiated from another representation of itself. A temporal object is differentiated by the boundaries it shares with another representation of itself. It is a single object which exists as perception and expression in the form of different representations of itself. Multiple representations of a single object do not exist in space, and can therefore only exist in the perceived representation of the temporally differentiated object. The temporal dimension therefore exists as an object perceiving and recognizing its own expressions. Common sense would say that it surely would be an object looking back on itself. The sequence of time, however, does not necessarily move forward, nor does it state that the sequence has a certain order. As an abstract concept, time exists as a collection of spatial representations of one object. There is no direction or determined sequence to interaction in the perceived representation of the temporal dimension. It is just a collection of different perceived expressions of an object. Any sequence or direction of time is imposed only when expressions are represented temporally, i.e., any sequence or direction of time exists only when the observer becomes a relevant entity in the creation of knowledge. Delineation in time differentiates an object by presenting the shared boundaries between different actualized phenomenal objects as representations of the noumenal property of one potential object. Definition in time differentiates an object from other representations of itself by presenting the phenomenal representation of noumenal property between different representations of itself.